Hey there, Laker fans. Welcome to another episode of Lakers Detailed. I am your host, Vinay, and I have my other host, Raj, here with me. Raj, how are you doing this Thursday evening, the eve of free agency for the NBA?
Oh man, I'm excited. A lot more peaceful than last year.
Yeah.
I was just kind of reminiscing on what we were kind of going through last season. It was just like, yeah, let's just get everybody out of here. Let's just get everybody out of here. And this is a lot more enjoyable to me. It's a lot more on the fringes, a lot more on the edges. Obviously, there's some trimming of the roster that went on today, but just a lot more peaceful, a lot more enjoyable, a lot of intel coming out today. But yeah, I'm excited, man. Free agency is tomorrow, and the NBA has a way of just going very quickly. Not a lot of decisions get put off for later, like the Kawhi one a couple seasons ago or stuff like that, where superstars take a while. But most free agents are done really quick, so I'm excited to get that started and go ahead into summer league, where we'll both be at next Friday, I believe, is
Yes.
summer league.
Yes, I'm flying in Thursday night. I am, obviously me and you'll be there Friday. I don't know if you've gotten some messages, but I've gotten some messages for a live, like just to do one on camera together. So I'm going to see if I can
Hmm.
figure out a way to situate that for us where we can just kind of talk about, Lakers basketball together. So we don't look like we're in the same room or different rooms of the same house. Because apparently, if you guys ever watch the YouTube stream, Raj has the same color walls in his house that I do in mine. So it seems like we live in the same house, but we don't. We live in separate houses. So,
Right, we're
uh,
2 doors down, actually. Yeah, that's what it is.
yeah. But yeah, what's it called? So yeah, last time we did this, we were kind of talking about Lakers free agent moves, who to bring back. We've done a lot of stuff on it, but we haven't really done a free agency primer. Um, and like you mentioned, there has been some stuff that is uh, still sort of up in the air. And then, but there isn't like that much drama. There isn't a lot as it relates to the Lakers. Obviously, we're trying to fill out our roster, on the margins, but this isn't like we're, the Russ thing last year, where are we going to trade Russ? He was a big monumental chunk of our salary cap. He was a big monumental piece to everything. There was a lot more drama, I would say, last year about the inaction of what that
Oh yeah.
offseason was like. But this season, it's, we kind of already got all the guys at the deadline that we wanted to bring back. A
Hmm.
lot more good than bad, and from since the trade deadline. So it's just a matter of making sure that we make improvements on the margins. But if the Lakers are involved, there's always going to be some drama. There's no escape from drama. So
Sure.
earlier today we had actually before we get into that, because I know everybody's going to do that, and yes, I have written up a salary cap sheet. I will share that with the folks that are in the space. I will share it for the folks on the screen too as well. But I'll share it in the space so people will have something to kind of look along when it comes to like a visual guide as to what our cap situation looks like. Um, Obviously, I'm not an expert. I'm not Eric Pincus. Shout out Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report. He is the master at this kind of stuff. But I've got some rough salary cap skills that should be helpful for everybody. So I'll make sure I share that when we get to the portion about the Lakers. And I also have a salary cap sheet set up for what the Lakers cap situation will look like after, if they choose to go and get a guy like Bruce Brown with their entire non-taxpayer MLE. So people have a decent idea of just kind of how much room we have to work with when it comes to what's
Hmm.
that. So we definitely want to make sure, we stay true to our name. We're trying to be detailed when it comes to the Lakers, but there's a few other things that have happened prior to us getting
Man.
to the Lakers. Um, James Harden opted in. That's the biggest news that we've gotten today. James Harden has opted
Hmm.
into his final year with Philadelphia and has requested a trade out of Philadelphia. First impressions, Raj. What do you think about his request out?
Yeah, it's very strange. I mean, I thought Houston was kind of the plan for him, but they've kind of it looks like they're going to go in a different direction with maybe Fred Van Fleet. Makes sense, kind of a bridge player for their young guys. And then all this other stuff started coming out. James Harden didn't like Jalen Green's answer on the Paul George podcast. I mean, it's a real thing an NBA reporter said today. I don't know. I don't like James Harden's going to be on what, like his fourth team in 4 years,
Fourth team in four
three
seasons,
in 4 seasons. Not
three or four seasons. Yeah.
Here's my theory on this, man. I feel like once you realize you can just get out of a situation, like I
Oh
think
yeah,
you see this, players just realize that they can just get out of a situation. Any kind of sign of adversity or any type of sign of struggle, they're out, right? And
yeah.
I think you see this with a lot of the stars. And I think James Harden has kind of gotten in this boat where he just wants to, hop around. And we'll see if he goes. The Clippers are the ones that are leading the way. And I guess to me, the Clippers have to just lean all the way in. They have two stars who are never available, and I guess trade for another one that just doesn't produce when it matters. Let's let's just go all the way in to crazy. I I get it from like a star, approach and trying to get a 3-star build and all that. I just feel like when I watch the Clippers, like you want depth around your stars, and I think it'll be great when they play like 20 games together. But yeah, it's strange, man. I wasn't expecting a Harden request today, but it looks like the Sixers and him are working together on a deal, which to me means like it's already finalized. Like they're just
Yeah.
going through the details of the machinations of what the trade will look like. But no, I mean, it looks like James Harden is going to be on the team. What's the return? I saw the packages coming back. It's like that doesn't make any sense.
Oh yeah.
Marcus Morris, Robert Covington for James Harden. As much as I detest James Harden, I still think that's an insane package for him. But I don't know that. And what does Embiid think? I just like it's very strange. I feel like that got thrown in today with all the other news. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say like I was shocked in the sense that I'm surprised that the relationship. I'm not shocked that he asked out. I'm shocked that it
Mhm,
got to this point because obviously his relationship with Maury, Philly was one of the teams that he had named that he wanted to, like when he originally asked for the trade out of Houston, Philly was the team that wanted him. And I remember when he asked for a trade out of the Nets and he goes to Philly, people are like, oh, this is where he always wanted to be originally. But from what I've heard, at least, behind the scenes, is they couldn't agree to the number that he wanted. And I
mhm.
think what happened was, you know, James has Jim. I like to call him Jim Harden, but like he he was expecting like his backup plan was going to be a team like Houston, and but the problem is the number that the number in the contract that he wants, which is exactly the same issue that a lot of these other like this is going to be a Kyrie issue too as well. Like assuming that Dallas isn't readily is thinking a little bit hesitating a little bit about the contract they want to give him, but like I think he overestimated his market and the market called his bluff. And so now he's in
Mhm,
a situation where he has to request a trade to go to a team that's willing to pay him, the money that he wants, or to at least stay, his salary for preserve his bird rights and possibly extend him, next year when he's an actual unrestricted free agent. So I'm not surprised he's asked out. I'm surprised because that would be the normal thing to do. If the team that
right.
doesn't want to extend you, then there's no reason for you to stay there. So the reason for him asking out, I understand. That's not a surprise, but I'm surprised it got to this point because I would have thought Daryl Morey would have figured it out with him a long time ago.
Right.
But it seems like that's not the case. And so, he's been rumored to the Knicks. I don't think he's going to go back to New York. He was in Brooklyn. He probably saw for a year or whatever, a half a year, however long he was there, what it was like to be out there. I wouldn't be surprised if the Clippers are the team to get it. And again, we just saw Brad. I know he had a non-trade clause, but like we have
Mm.
seen other teams make trades or just kind of do like Clippers waive Eric Gordon. You know what I mean? Like they just let him go for
Eh,
nothing to save cap money. I could see him going for much less than people realize that he's going to be worth if he goes to the Clippers.
For sure. I guess here's my thing. What confuses me, like a team like the Clippers, I feel like wouldn't you want some stability somewhere, like in your organization, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm the
What do
Clippers
you
and
think? What do you think Ty Lue thinks?
oh god,
Tyler's gonna be like, dude, what? I gotta deal with this guy too.
should have seen him on the shop. I forgot what question it was, but he was just losing his mind at some of the answers. But no, like I feel like with the Clippers, obviously Paul George and Kawhi. I mean, I feel like you have to run it back at least one more year. I don't see the market giving you anything that equals their value in trades or whatever. At least this summer, right? I just
Yeah.
don't think Paul George off an injury. Kawhi, who knows when he plays? When I think he just had surgery and told the Clippers about it 2 weeks later. Whatever goes on with him. But I feel like you'd want some stability. And then, like, what about James Harden's last two teams tells you anything that like he's a stable of stability or he's gonna come in and be? People are like, oh, he's gonna be motivated now. He wasn't. He wouldn't be
No,
motivated in Philly or in
no.
Brooklyn.
The
So
contract year, yeah,
yeah,
it's I think some of it's also like Dude, actually, before that, like, I'm just thinking about Ty Lue, and I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, bro, he's probably saying things like, dude, first of all, I don't know when Kawhi plays and when he doesn't play. And then you guys get to trade for a dude who, for sure, is taking the 45-minute flight to Vegas in between games
Oh
whenever he
man.
has the chance. He's going to lose his mind. And, you know, I mean, Harden, what you want to call him, the superstar now or a star level, like he's probably going to get that equity from the Clippers where he can kind of go and do that kind of stuff. And he that's what he does. It's part of his thing. Daryl Morey knew about it in Houston. It was one of the things that they was okay with when he came to Philly. Like Harden does what he does on his off days, you know, and you can't say anything about it. And it is what it is as long as he shows up and plays. But it's just like I feel for Ty Lue, man. He's gonna have to like try to patchwork this, assuming he's there, patchwork all this stuff together
Yeah,
to figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah. And I can just zooming in on the basketball fit just for a second. And like I think Harden's incredible. I just think it goes to another issue. I think with the Clippers, and we have Clipper fan friends. I think they've echoed the sentiment. And to me, like the issue isn't the answer for the Clippers isn't absolving Paul George and Kawhi of
Right.
responsibility. Like I don't think that's the answer. I think there's some overlap there. Like, yeah, you can give the ball to James Harden at the top of the key to run 30 pick and rolls, right? Like a game. I guess you can move Paul George off the ball, Kawhi off the ball and stuff like that. But I still think like their best, but it's why like when you watch the Clippers, Terrence Mann pops, Zubac pops, right?
Right.
They work hard, they do all the dirty work. Harden gives up the ball, he stands at half court. I mean, like that's
It's gonna be so good.
he had issues giving Embiid the ball. Do you remember that? Doc Rivers this year, not 2020, 2023 playoffs said, yeah, our issue was we couldn't get Embiid the basketball. It's a 2023 issue, not 2020 issue. So just like the basketball stuff, I think there's some overlap there. I just feel like bringing James Harden to your team kind of fundamentally changes the way you run offense. And then defensively, I think he's past the point of really giving a crap when in most games, forget about playoff games. So I think I think as a 3, they'll be great. I'm sure in terms of the numbers, I just sell your team out for James Harden. I mean, I guess, and then trading from a winning team in Philly, like just it makes no sense, man. Who knows what James Harden wants?
I heard people in the organization were hiding Rob Pelinka's phone from him when the
Oh,
news
come
came
on.
out, so he wouldn't see the news about.
Oh,
They're like,
on,
don't let
man.
him see the news that this dude's asking for a trade. We can't do this again. Anyways,
Man.
that's enough on the Clippers and James Harden. But you know that was
Sure.
the big news for the day. Shout out also to the NBA amateur analyst. I forgot what the name of. I think it's like Dropping Dimes or something
Ooh,
like that.
dropping
If that
dimes
account,
20. Yes.
if that account is being run by the persons that I think are running that account, props to them because boy, Woj and the powers that be at ESPN sniped that account so fast. It was amazing to see.
Good.
It just go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, like, if I'm in those rooms, like, I'm not hitting a burner account. I'm just understanding, like, like someone has said, maybe it's an owner's son, or maybe it's something like that. Like, I think he came out and said he worked for an agency or something like that. Like, and that got sniped down quick. I mean, like,
Fast.
he came back for like 5 minutes. So yeah, that was hilarious, man. I feel like every year, like one account just comes out of the woodwork and is like, hey guys, this and this is gonna happen, and it just gets turned away.
Yeah. If the dudes that are running that account are the dudes that I think that I can
Okay.
guess who it is, then I'm very, very confident that that information was well sourced. It was not made up, and that's why I'm not surprised that it matched. I
Oh, they
didn't
hit
know
on a
about
bunch
it.
of stuff. They got a
Yeah,
lot of stuff right.
yeah, I didn't know about it until it hit my timeline because the new Twitter
Mhm.
just like separates everybody's information out, and I don't even see half of the stuff that goes viral. But like one of the things, I took a step back and I was just thinking to myself, I was like, dude, like for sure, like ESPN or somebody got this account sniped because it wasn't saying anything egregious. Like somebody got the account sniped, but also Raj, like this kind of like it's almost an exercise for fans, I think, to understand how important the control of information is, like how important it is to like these companies like ESPN and Bleacher Report, and to people like Shams and Woj and all the other newsbreakers that there may be. Like, if they are the gatekeepers to this kind of information, that's what makes them so valuable. But what happens when that information is public domain? What happens
Right.
when you and I can discuss that? Hey, you know, if James doesn't get the contract that he wants, or he's currently in a contract a negotiation with Philly and it doesn't look like Philly's going to give him the number he wants, me and you could come up with 100 different things, different ideas for where we want to send him. And who knows, somebody may read it and be like, yeah, this is a better opportunity for him. But like,
Yeah.
it's crazy to see like an anonymous account just get sniped for something like that. And it's not like he's like revealing, like doxing him or anything like that.
Oh
He's just
no,
saying,
yeah.
this guy may not be here in 2 weeks. Just
Yeah, he
surprised. Anybody can tweet that, but it's just
wasn't releasing CIA documents. He was literally
yeah,
talking basketball.
right.
He's like James Harden might request a trade, and then Woj drops it like 2 minutes or like 5 minutes later or something like that. Yeah, that's strange. He said he was like working for an agency or something like that. I think it just shows to me it's like an agent and players league, and these aren't $1 million deals. These are $1 billion information that's getting traded or that's getting shared and stuff like that. So I'm sure people want to keep stuff in house, and Shams and Woj kind of share different details. Water carrying is a term that gets passed around a lot, or you know what I mean? Just stuff like that. And you can kind of read within the details. Chris Haynes got in trouble today for saying that the Suns were meeting with Kyrie Irving. Which look, I don't think Chris Haynes makes that up.
That was the other big news. Yeah, let's talk about that. Go.
Yeah, I don't think Chris Haynes was like, yeah, let me make up that Kyrie's meeting with the Suns. But obviously, I think Gambo, who's very close with Suns ownership, tweeted out, Kyrie's not meeting with the Suns. That's bull. I'm like, well, I'm sure the Suns don't want that out there because, that further ruins the relationship with DeAndre Ayton, right? I'm sure if there's a Kyrie meeting so a lot of like variables and stuff in the, information that gets passed around. And I think you can kind of, trace back where information is coming from for sure.
Yeah, it's so that was the other news that came out today about Kyrie meeting with Phoenix. I think that's all formality. I think he has to just show that he's taking meetings with other teams. Part of the reason why is you have to give the impression that you're actually trying to negotiate other deals for yourself, as opposed to what everybody assumes, that the only reason he got traded to Dallas is because Dallas told him, we'll give you the extension that you want if you come here. But that's technically illegal. You can't do that. Like Dallas can't have that negotiated in advance. So you technically have to Kyrie's doing the right thing. Business-wise, Kyrie's doing the right thing. He's helping out, Mark Cuban by pretending to take these visits with free, with teams.
With teams with no money. Yes.
Yeah. The reason why the Phoenix Suns is so funny is because it's like, obviously it's KD and, there's going to be a lot of buzz because they're like, but the other thing is like, dude, how are you this is not going to work financially based on like what you want. Like you want $40 million. This is just not happening. There's no way this can happen without you taking a significant discount.
Yeah, I think the Ayton sign and trade works technically, but if you're Dallas, that's a disaster in my opinion. Like I don't think Dallas has a choice here. Like I feel like this is, you just kind of have to pay Kyrie, which is something you kind of know when you make that trade in the first place. You give up real stuff for it. So I think he has them over a barrel. I understand he has to go take meetings, but I mean, I just don't know what Dallas's choice here. I mean, they drafted a center, and Derek Lively. I'm sure was going to be good. I'm not sure if he'll be ready next year, and we'll see what they do in free agency. But yeah, I think Kyrie's going to go to Dallas. I think these meetings are just like, there's a Laker meeting coming. I mean, it's just there's late Kyrie met with LeBron and Brass, sometime, or had dinner or something like that. So, but yeah, I think he's back in Dallas. Just it was just funny to watch that report come out and get taken, get destroyed by Suns ownership.
Chris Hayes has had a rough offseason. Like he's released some information early, and it's just like, oof, like maybe you're jumping the gun a little bit, but it is what it is. That's just kind of how the business works, and it's a risk that you take as a newsbreaker also. So it's just, I think a lot of guys are just trying to be really, really careful about it. But we got the Harden news, we got the Kyrie news, and then we got we got a few extensions. Harrison Barnes re-extending with re-extending with the Kings.
Mm-hmm.
We also had what am I thinking of? Like rumors of Houston offering Dylan Brooks a decent contract. Fred VanVleet getting a very heavily loaded 2-year contract, very high 2-year contract to get him. So it's just like a lot of different things around the league that are sort of happening. Some Laker related, some not really Laker related. But the big thing about the Lakers that's been going on, the rumor, the intel that's been getting shared over and over again, has been about Bruce Brown. Bruce came off the bench for Denver, wins the championship, did I would say a phenomenal job, especially against the Lakers. Playing sort of that. I wouldn't even say it's 3-and-D. He was kind of like a Swiss Army knife roll off the bench for them. Very physical, defensive. We don't have to get into what he's good at. Laker fans saw it firsthand. But the big news has been, the Lakers waiving Mo Bamba and then not exercising the option on Malik Beasley. And that I think is either confirmed by now or should be confirmed pretty shortly. I would assume the Lakers, I don't know if they're going to do a PR about a press release about it. They may or may not. But essentially, clearing those two contracts off the books to open up the ability to use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is about $12 million. And so what I shared in the space, if you take a look at the big screen, is the cap sheet that I made. Now, my calculations are not going to be perfect because I am not a lawyer, so I'm not as expert, and I wouldn't say I'm a salary cap. I'm a complete amateur, but I would say that like I'm not like perfect when it comes to those calculations. But the one thing I do want to share is just kind of what the cap hold situation looks like for the Lakers. So if you're reading the tweet on the big board, this is just supposed to be a visual guide. So I'm just going to talk through it really, really quickly so people get an understanding of what it is. Right now, the Lakers are in a situation where they're above the cap, but they're below the tax line. So because they're above the cap, but they're below the tax line, they have the ability to use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception. The only catch with the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, which is the $12 million, is that you can't cross the first apron because it hard caps you. That's what people need to understand. I've seen people say that it's the second apron that's the hard cap. I've seen people say you can't even cross into the tax. That's not what it is. All it is that you get hard capped at the first apron, which if you look at one of those red lines, it says it right there, first apron, $172 million. So as soon as the Lakers use the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, you are basically hard capped at the number. At no point in the season, trade, somebody season-ending injury, and you have disabled players, you cannot cross that number. So it's a very important number for Laker fans to be aware of if we are going to use that non-taxpayer mid-level exception. But that's what the Lakers are trying to do because they want to get an impact guy. And the impact guy that they've been targeting is Bruce Brown. Now, there are some things that we have to resolve before we do that because we have cap holds for certain players, specifically 3 guys that we have to resolve. At least one of them for sure has to be resolved for us to do anything. And that player is D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell, if you take a look at that tweet, you'll see he has a cap hold of about $38 million, which means that until he either is renounced as a player, which means he counts as 0 against our cap, or if we sign him to a new contract, let's say $20 million, something like that, his number is still part of our calculation. So we have to get that number down, or we have to get the overall number down so that we can eventually sign Bruce Brown. That's basically what the Lakers cap situation is right now. For the sake of this exercise, I made sure I included Jalen. I included Fino in there. Max Christie's in there. Jared Vanderbilt, we picked up his guarantee. And so all that sort of stuff. So it's very straightforward. Hopefully this helps folks understand just kind of where we're at. So there are, D'Lo is, you and I said that D'Lo should be the lowest priority in the conversation. When we did our free agency talk, and we said that, you got to secure Rui and you got to secure Austin first. You just got to get it out of the way. But for the sake of making sure that we sign guys on a timely basis, we also do need to have that conversation with D'Lo. Obviously, we can come to an agreement when free agency starts. The Lakers can come to the agreement with Bruce Brown, and then it's just figuring out the order of operations for all the signings, so we don't break any rules. But this is an important thing for I think Laker fans to understand. And as always, I'm sure I'll be off by like a couple thousand, 100,000, but this is kind of what it is. What do you think? So there's, I guess the part of this that I wanted to sort of discuss with you was there's sort of an opportunity cost here. If I take D'Lo, there's been some talk of possibly, maybe we let D'Lo walk, and it's been a very sort of shaky conversation that you and I have had in the background, but it is something that has been broached to some degree. Do you have any thoughts specifically as it relates to, like, do we keep D'Lo? Is there like a trade-off? Is there a point? Because it would afford us some more cap space. Like if I take D'Lo off of off of our sheet, we do get to like that 17 million or a little bit more money, 16 million in cap space. Then we can use the non-taxpayer MLE. Do you have any thoughts about taking that route in general?
Yeah, not really. I'm not sure there's a player really out there that I think would replace D'Lo enough to me to just let him go with that. And I get Bruce Brown as a guard, I guess technically, but I still think like at least he's the one that feels like has been most rumored to come to us. But I don't think that just letting D'Lo walk would be wise unless there's a player that you can for sure go and get. Kyle Kuzma, we'll see where he's going, but I just don't think there are realistic options. I feel like you can. I don't know, but I'm looking at the market. I'm watching players sign. I mean, Harrison Barnes just signed for 18 million, right, with Sacramento. I'm just looking at the market. I don't see a huge offer coming for D'Lo. So I feel like you can keep him at a pretty reasonable number. Austin Reeves cap hold I see here is 2 million, but I expect him to obviously come at that 11 million or more. On Rui, I feel like if you can get him at that 18, I think that then you live with that, but or even in that 14 to 15 range. I think that gives you a lot of options there. And I guess the first question for me is Bruce Brown worth hard capping your team for? Like is that like something that is that a route you would go? I guess is hard capping your team for Bruce Brown. Is that a route that you think you would like to take? And I think I'm gonna share in here. I think you sent me online as well the cap sheet with the and non-taxpayer MLE kind of
Yeah,
with
so
it.
I'm gonna show. I'll show that right now. I'll put it on the big board
Okay. Okay.
for the group. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great question because you and I had a debate about this. Like we discussed this, and I remember I put a tweet out about it. Like it is very possible for the Lakers to sorry with yeah. So for the folks that are in the space, I'm going to share what that cap sheet looks like. If
Yeah.
we with some so what I did is me and Raj we had a deep discussion about you know let's say we do use the non-taxpayer MLE. We also kind of
Right.
gathered the intel that him and I have both gotten from different places about what we think the value of a guy like D'Lo is going to be, what the
Rui.
value of a guy like Rui is going to be on the market. And obviously, we already know that Austin's capped when it comes to just because of the Gilbert Arenas
Mm-hmm.
provision. So
Yep.
what I shared up on the big board here is what the Lakers look like with those estimations and the non-taxpayer MLE used on Bruce Brown. So this is sort of that next step. So we know Mo is gone. We know Malik is most likely having his player option decline. We know Shaq Harrison was also he was waived too as well. So now what we have is a cap sheet with a non-taxpayer MLE player. For our example here, I put Bruce Brown in there. Is Bruce Brown? So let's ask the first question: is Bruce Brown worth spending your entire non-taxpayer MLE on? If the free agent class was better, I would
Mm-hmm.
say no. But the
Okay.
problem is that he's probably at the top of the one of the top guys of the free agent class, unless a whole bunch of guys, happen to get
Right.
released. So for the sake of, hey, we have to use it. Like if Rob Pelinka comes to me and says, look, we have to use it this season. Like we'll get it again next season, but we have to use it this season on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So and for whatever reason we have to use it. Then I would say yes. Like I was like, okay, you know what, we can hard cap ourselves for him because right now I don't know who else we would go after with like the taxpayer MLE and
Exactly.
via trades. If we had, I honestly think that if the Lakers had found trade partners to take Beasley's expiring or Bamba's expiring, we probably don't go after Bruce Brown. But they're probably doing this route because they couldn't find somebody to take Beasley or Mo's contracts to flip them.
Right. If you can also share that the second one on the replying to the Twitter Spaces, so they can see that as well. The non-taxpayer MLE.
Yeah, that should be up there. That's
Screenshot.
up on the
Oh,
that's up on
it
the
is
jump
okay.
drive.
Yeah, that was my point with that too, and I think I said this to you before, but expirings are kind of more valuable at the deadline, right? Like just like guys who are on expiring deals, and teams really don't want to take those right now because you still have to roster the player for 8 months. So that's why I think like those expirings maybe don't have as much value at this time. So Lakers are going the route where, to me, Bruce Brown is worth more than Malik Beasley and Bamba probably combined, like as a player to me. And I think both of us put a lot of weight into playoff performances, and I feel like he was awesome. And I think Vinay, I was thinking about it, he kind of feels not to just put all the eggs in the Bruce Brown boat because we'll see tomorrow that we got reports with Indiana and stuff like that. Maybe can overpay. It's just like, to me, the Lakers needed more physicality and they
Yeah.
needed more toughness. Those are things that are hard to kind of quantify, but I think Bruce Brown kind of fits both of those needs and holes. And I think that was the Lakers' biggest need. To me, I thought Bruce Brown did a lot of it, but I thought he kind of punked us a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of the time in that Denver series. I think he's a guy that's just tough, and he's a gamer. That's kind of the qualities that you see. I think he's a good knockdown spot up shooter. His numbers kind of don't indicate that he's a great shooter, but I feel like he'll be a good spot up shooter, and he's a good cutter. Played really well off Jokic. Not that a lot of players don't, but I think again he just fills a need where he can kind of switch 1 through 4. And again, just a big physical guard. I think he'd be a great signing, and I understand why they're going this route. And I tweeted this, Vinay. I don't know if this is true. I cannot see the Lakers. Both of us hear things, of course, but I just can't see the Lakers letting both of those go without some kind of
Advanced conversation.
deal or some kind of conversation
Confidence.
through birds or however
Yeah.
you have to communicate not to get in trouble. I just can't see them releasing both Beasley and Bamba and not having a contingency plan in place. And whether that's Bruce Brown, we can discuss Brooke Lopez later if you want, but like I just don't think they would do this without some type of contingency plan in place. And I think they do have one. So I understand the route they went, and it makes sense. And look, the hard cap kind of binds you a little bit in terms of decision making that you can do. But I think they'll still have options kind of at the deadline if they want to move someone here and there. I understand the premise. Bruce Brown's probably the best free agent that you can realistically go at, that you would probably get in a trade with Beasley or Bamba, right? You'd probably have to attach a first or something to both of them to get something back. And maybe the Lakers probably garnered the market and saw that there weren't really many players available aside from James Harden that you can go and access to.
Yeah, no, very true. I think the idea behind going after Bruce and just kind of what you also described to some degree, like the opportunity cost of getting a guy like Bruce versus holding on to Mo and Beasley and then just hoping that a deal materializes itself at the deadline, which may not materialize. Teams at that point also sometimes take the stance of, yeah, you know what, you could hold on to them. We're not gonna trade any assets for a guy that we know that you don't want, and that you're just kind of holding out to take advantage of somebody on the market for. So I that sort of makes sense. So the cap sheet that's currently up there, the one that says Lakers with NTMLE, that cap sheet is one where you and I have discussed over and over again what the value of some of the D'Angelo Russell is, Rui is, and kind of come to a conclusion to the number. And the one thing I think for people to understand is these would be like the first year salaries, right? So if Rui Hachimura got like a 3-year deal where the average per year is $18 million a year, or $17 million a year, the first year of that contract will start at like 15 or 16 million. So that's kind of the way that this cap sheet for at least this upcoming season has been built out. So we've got D'Angelo Russell at about 20 million. I've heard that numbers like 20, like a 2-year, 40 million. I've seen some people say 2 years, 30 million, which would be, if the Lakers get D'Lo for less than $20 million, that would be extraordinary if they got him at that number. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think 20 a year is about like the right number for a guy like him. I think about who his agent is, who his agency is. And then I also think about the fact that like Julius Randle kind of took a similar deal when even after his All-NBA kind of season with the Knicks, took a deal that kind of started him off at about like $20 million. Obviously, it was a longer term deal. It was like I think he took like a 4-year deal or something like that afterwards. But like, I think 20 is about the right number. Rui, I've got at about 16. I think his average salary will be much higher. And then obviously I've got Austin at 11, which is the max that he can get, give or take a couple $100,000 based on the Gilbert Arenas provision. What do you think about the numbers of D'Angelo Russell at 20 million? Let's talk about D'Lo first. What do you think about D'Lo at 20 million?
I think that kind of makes sense. But again, I look at the market and then you look at the teams with cap space, right? You look at Indiana, you look at San Antonio, you look at Houston, who feels like they're locked into Fred VanVleet. I don't know what team is throwing $20 million at. The problem with D'Lo, I think he's past the point of potential, right? Where like you're trying to build him with a core like group, and he's also kind of not in that where he's your give him the ball 50 times a game and he runs your offense, right? So he's kind of in that middle off guard off ball guard spot where it's really tough to throw a ton of money at him. I still think maybe there's a contract that's coming. I just don't know where the big kind of deal is, and I think the Lakers and him can kind of work out. Look, 15 million would be insane. I don't think you're getting D'Angelo Russell for 2 years, $30 million. I also think he's not here. If that's
That would be
if that's the deal either, right? Like I just don't think he's returning for that number. But I do think Renee, there's a ballpark of like 17 to 20 to me where like he can live in. I feel like he wants maybe a 2-year +1 type of deal where he can kind of re-enter free agency before he turns 30. Is it 27 now? 26, 27 or somewhere around there. Forgot how old he is, but where he can kind of re-enter free agency there, and I think they can kind of agree to terms on that. I just don't see where the big deal is. It's also been quiet on like D'Angelo Russell's front. Like I haven't, right? It's been like eerily quiet where there's just been no information at all. You see all these other guys talking where, you see Kuz linked to Houston. Well, I mean, everyone's linked to Houston, but here Indiana about Bruce Brown today, San Antonio with others, and D'Angelo Russell has been really quiet. So I feel like the team should have some type of agreement. I feel like anything under 20, like you said, I think that's a win. You bring back the guard, and look, D'Lo knows the business, the trade of the business. He could be traded at the deadline, but I think those two can kind of agree on a number that works for both teams. That 30 million number is gone though. That's done. Like I think that's over with. That's the number he wants.
The 30 a year number.
Yeah, the 30. Yeah. I think that's what he wanted when he first arrived here, right? And maybe if the Lakers won the title, he gets that number, but I think that number at least is gone. Somewhere in that 18 to 20 range though. That feels right for him. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think 20 is right, especially because of the fact that we're going to be using all of the non-taxpayer MLE. Like that is a big part of this equation, right? Like because you are going to fundamentally get hard cap, you still have to leave yourself enough room below the first apron to fill in guys. Like if you want to use the biannual exception, which is I think about $4 million, like you can't give him like if you give D'Lo a $25 million a year deal, and let's say Rui is pretty locked. I think 16 million is a pretty fair deal for a guy like Rui. It's like less than DeAndre Hunter, but like it feels like, but it's more than the non-taxpayer MLE. I remember I told you that Washington offered. What I was told was Washington had offered Rui the non-taxpayer MLE, like the 11 to 12 million dollars that was last year. He turned that down before he got traded to the Lakers. So he turned down that extension and it came to the Lakers. So he's not, and he had a pretty solid season for us. So I don't think he's going to be trying to take 12 or less. And I know a lot of people have been like, no, he's not worth more than that. Well, he kind of is worth more than that to the Lakers because we don't know what Bron's injury status is going to be when this season starts. If you've listened to any of the previous pods, he's basically LeBron insurance on the offensive end for the Lakers if for any games that he goes out. And so like 15 to 16 million sounds about right for him. But the bigger point is those two numbers have to make sense for us to say low enough from the first apron. Because if you're looking at that cap sheet that I've shared up in the top of the space, we need to have enough room to fill out like 5 other roster spots. And if one of those roster spots is going to be the biannual exception, maybe we go after Mason Plumlee, or we go after Dario Saric, or we go after Kevin Love. Like if we're spending, any kind of more than veteran minimum money on those guys, we need the room. And so I think 20 million is like a number that I would hope works for D'Lo. Like it's not this. I could see him being like $15 million is kind of disrespectful. You know what I mean? That's like backup point guard money. And obviously he's a starter for the Lakers. So I think 20 million is right. What do you think about the Rui number at 16? You think that's too high, too low? It's about right.
Rui's the one that I'm like very confused about. Like we'll talk about Austin, I'm sure later, but Austin again is kind of capped already at what he's going to make next season, at least on the Lakers and everything. The Lakers have been vehemently and adamant about they're going to match everything. Rui's a guy. I just said all that stuff about D'Lo. Rui's a guy that a team can be like, hey, look, he's a guy who can get his own shot. He's also young. He's like 24, 25. We put him in our system, kind of let him get shots. But I guess the question is, how much do you believe in a 3-month sample, right? Because like Rui had a huge kind of stretch of his career, and then he came to the Lakers, was able to play off LeBron and AD. I'm just saying what other teams would see. We watch him on an everyday basis. we were saying like, hey, can we play this big 6'9" dude more? Like we're
Yeah.
we're getting destroyed on the rebounds. Can we play this guy more? But I'm wondering what other teams kind of see. I think that number makes sense as well. Some around 17 to 18 feels right for him. Again, I'm looking at just around the league what players are going for. Harrison Barnes, obviously there was some work with Sacramento, but I mean he went for $18 million. It's a guy who's had a struggle in the Warriors series a little bit shooting the ball as he seems to do in the playoffs. But he's a guy that's like a reliable kind of wing, during the regular season. I wonder if Rui is kind of in that range. Again, I just keep going through like the teams with free agent with with money to spend. I'm just wondering if they're going to, tie their money up again, because Rui's a guy the Lakers can match the offer sheets on, right? He's a restricted free agent, so they offered a qualifying offer to him. So do you want to tie your money up on a guy the Lakers might just match anyway as well? So I think that restricted free agency is always ugly. Like that's what players say
Absolutely.
and teams talk about. It's a very nasty part of the business. But that's the part where the teams have some type of advantage where other teams really don't want to come knocking on the door. And also it's been very quiet on his front as well. It's been eerily quiet. There has been no real information there. I'm sure he wants the most money, but he's also talked about he's in a pretty good situation. This isn't his, first contract after the rookie deal. This is his, this will be his, I believe, third contract. But I think around that 15 to 18 as well feels right for him in terms of what we saw in that sample. Teams usually don't throw 25 to $30 million at a player after that short of a sample. Like that's just not normally what happens. So that's where I'm at. What do you think? Am I underestimating kind of the market of free agents that's out there?
No, I think you're about right. I think one of the things that also kind of works in our favor is the free agent market is kind of suppressed. Like it's one of those
Also,
things.
really quickly, the Kings signing Harrison Barnes cut their free agency money as well, right? So now they're down to 18 million, which also takes away leverage from guys like Draymond Green, from Kyle Kuzma, using them as a free agent hub of leverage to go. But sorry, I just want
So on the behind the scenes part, because of some of these signings have happened, now I'm hearing that the guys that thought, aka Kyle Kuzma, the guys that were talking about Houston signing him and now Sacramento signing him, like Kuzma is a guy who I don't know who's like, where are you getting the money that, first of all, I don't even think he knows. I think Kuzma thinks that he was going to get 25 to 30 and he's going to quickly find out he may not get more than 20 million on the open market. And that's only if a team wants to create that cap space to sign him to that point. So what I'm starting to hear for guys like Draymond, for guys like Kuzma are they're going to be sign and trade candidates. They're not going to be, for if the team can't keep them, they'll be sign and trade candidates to whatever team actually wants them, which makes it a completely different situation. But the point I wanted to say was, like, the thing that's in the Lakers' advantage is the free agent market is suppressed. And I know a lot of folks have turned around, some writers have gone out there and said, well, Lakers should just play hardball with these guys because the market's not on their side. Yeah, I get that. But I think your point is very, very pointed. Like, you can't ruin a personal relationship with a player, like the human relationship with the player, over $1 or $2 million if it doesn't make any difference to your cap sheet. Like, penny pinching will not do us any good when it comes to this. There's that example of Gordon Hayward back when, with the Jazz and why he chose not to stay with the Jazz. That kind of stuff happens all the time. And so players remember that kind of stuff. And, I think it's the only news I've seen on Rui, which has been cool, is that he's like, I mean, whether it's cool or not, depends on for the Team Japan, their FIBA team. But like he said, he's not going to, he's not going to go participate. He's going to stay and keep working on his game. So it's kind of cool to see, like, he's committed to, his own game. But like, it sounds like he's taking his personal development much more seriously, than spending time, playing basketball overseas. So it's honorable each way, whatever he decides to do. So that's really the only news that I've heard. And D'Lo, there's a video of him coming out of his camp. But yeah, the market's kind of on the Lakers side. Like, if we get Bruce Brown, like, that's a great start to free agency. Go ahead. What were you saying?
Well, for Bruce Brown, that's a rotation player on a title that just won the title, by the way. And Bruce Brown's 26 years old. I think he feels kind of, he's not as great of a defender as Caruso, but I think he's a little bit more offensively skilled than he was. I think it's like the comp of a big physical guard that rebounds. But so shout out Yossi Goslin, who's another really good cap and
great follow.
Cap guy. So he tweeted out the teams with cap space, right? Houston at 66 million, and we kind of know where their cap's going. It's been kind of reported in a lot of places that it's at Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks. more power to you. But, yeah, go ahead. San Antonio, 41 million. We'll see what they do. I have no idea what they want to do with that space.
Yeah,
Indiana at 32 million. We'll see. Detroit at 30. I think they're going to send an offer sheet for Cam Johnson. I feel like that's been kind of reported out
that's
there.
out there. Yeah,
Uh, they're going to pay him as much as they pay Monty Williams, I guess. And then from there, it's Orlando at 21. Like, to me, these teams, OKC at 18, like, you're not stealing Rui at 21 or
right,
18, in my opinion. Like, you're just not. So to me, it's those teams at the top. And I just like, maybe does San Antonio want to throw an offer at Rui Hachimura? Maybe. I just like, does he fit their timeline? I don't know. I
right.
feel like they just, so like, to me, there's just not a lot of places, and that's where we were just speaking about the leverage that you have. And there's also other free agents out there that I think have a little bit more name to them, right? There's just more free agents and there's money out there. So like Kyle Kuzma's looking for a $25 million deal. You just brought up a sign and trade option for him. So we'll see if that, comes to fruition. But I just like, that's why I look at the market and like, yeah, I don't know where the money's coming for D'Lo, Rui, as well. Austin, we'll see how, if anyone decides to, throw a contract at him. I don't see where it's coming from, I guess, on the basketball side. I don't see a team throwing $25 million at Rui Hachimura, the guy we just got for 3 seconds, and Kendrick Nunn 4 months ago.
Yeah,
I don't see that. That's usually not how the NBA works, like in my opinion. And then last thing, so he also tweeted that like a ton of teams have the non-tax MLE, right? It's like half the league has the
yeah,
non-taxpayer MLE. I think so. The LA market and Lakers market and whatever gets kind of thrown around, you know what I mean? Like, it gets thrown in every single conversation. Lakers are good because of their market. And we share the same market with the Clippers, and the Knicks also have a pretty good
yeah,
market. But I think this is kind of where it gets put in advantage. When money's equal, I think that's when you start to see where the Lakers weren't good. None of this matters. But when Lakers are good, that's when their market becomes an advantage to me. That's where you can kind of play up the, hey, you're in LA and all that stuff. And I'm not saying those are the reasonings why a player would come here. I'm just saying like those are things that in the Lakers' advantage. So I think that's something they can use, going, for tomorrow, looking at non-taxpayer MLE guys and their decisions.
yeah. And honestly, if I was pitching outside of obviously living in LA and the weather and
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff, the celebrity and whatnot, I hear Bruce Brown is a big country music fan, so I would tell him that Stagecoach is a huge blast every April in Indio, and he should come out here so he can go to that and enjoy the country music festival that goes on over there every single time. But these are the marginal advantages that we might get, as a team in LA. But like you
Exactly.
said, it's a competitive space. There's no guarantee that we get him. There's been word that Dallas is interested in him. There's been word that Indiana is interested in him. Obviously, any team with cap space could offer him more than the $12 million and get him. Like, I'm pretty sure he'll go wherever the money goes. But yeah, just talking about him as a player, like, he's really a Swiss Army knife. Like, I remember watching him in Brooklyn in the playoffs be the screen and roll guy for the Nets. And I remember he had a game. I forgot which playoff game it was. There was a playoff game where he had like 4 floaters over Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
Like, and I was just like, dude, this guy is going like crazy. And I know he's not taller than 6'6", and he's hitting these floaters, but it's just like, it's like a testament to the kind of player he is. You can plug and play him really anywhere. You can put him up defensively. You can put him on a lot of guys, and he can handle it. But obviously, he's not big enough to handle like the Kawhis and stuff like that in normal fashion. But if you look at him as a guy to fill that KCP and more
Yep.
role, he's really ideal for that sort of situation. Obviously, for the Lakers, assuming D'Angelo Russell's back and Reeves is still the starter, it's a good chance that Bruce is going to come off the bench for us. But even as a reserve coming off the bench, like Caruso did for a long time, like, he's a really, really great fit. And I can see the vision behind the Lakers front office as to why they want to get him. Now, even after we do this, let's say D'Angelo comes in at 20 or less, Rui comes in at 16 or less, then we have Austin. Now, there isn't much for at least the first 2 years of Austin's contract, regardless of whatever total dollar offer he gets, that matters. But, there has been some conversation about, what is there a number? Is there a number that you would walk away from Austin if he got an offer sheet that was this high? Meaning total deal value, right? So 4 years. So I think that with early bird rights, we can give him like 4 years, 51 million or something like that is what the number is. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. But that's total deal size, 51 million. So it's like 11,
Sure.
11, 11, 12, 13, something like that.
Right.
But we expect Austin to be able to get at least like 60 million, I would think,
Mm.
like a 12 million a year deal, or maybe even 65 or 70 million. Is there a number that you think you would ever walk away from? Like if he gets an $80 million offer sheet from somebody, $85 million offer sheet, it's about 20 million a year, right? Let's just say 80 million, 20 a year. Would you, that doesn't affect us. So for the Lakers, it's still
Sure.
11 million for the first two,
Yep.
11 and 11 to 12 million for the first 2 years. There's a big balloon in the cap for the second 2 years, that whatever the difference is. But is there a number that you would step away where you'd be like, you know what, we can't keep Austin?
No, like there's just no number that exists for me because even that was the point of the arenas rule, though, right? Like
Right.
so that like it doesn't affect you right away. And look, Austin bet on himself. That's the whole point of taking a 2-year deal, and he won. So like it's his right to go out into restricted free agency and try to get the best deal he could. DeAndre Ayton did that last year, got it from the Indiana Pacers. We'll see if someone bites. Lakers obviously inside have been very clear that they're going to, so much so that it's reportedly scared teams off from even offering, which
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like some team will bite and try to send an offer sheet in, whatever it is. Maybe it's not the max, but yeah, like no, there's not a number to me. I don't think you can lose Austin Reeves this summer. Like that would be catastrophic to me.
Yeah.
You just can't. And he's a guy like again, we saw flashes with Rui. We saw D'Lo have his moments in the playoffs. Austin was legit the third best player on a conference finals run. No, I'm not gonna go there, but like he was legit. Like he was like he was legit really good the whole run. Saved a lot of games. Showed that he's a 3-level scorer. You can give him the ball late in games. Like I there's no world to me. There's also a like Caruso tax as well. Like you can't lose Caruso for nothing and then lose Austin Reeves for nothing. Not that tax should have mattered in the first place, but like you just can't. Those two things cannot happen in like 2 summers together. So there's just no number for me. Even if he gets I think his max Vinay is like 98 million or something like that.
It's like 98 million. Yeah. So you're so in the worst case scenario, you would be
right.
looking at like 11 million, 12 million, and then like 30 million and 30 million. Like that would be extremely big. But what? Somebody actually brought up a really nice point to me, which I didn't know, that if Austin were just to get like a 2-year deal from us, let's say at $11 million, and let's say he continued to play better or like even slightly better, like the max that he could command would be like 30 million. Obviously, I don't think even in his 3rd or 4th year somebody would give him 30 million. But if he really blew up, like he turned into like like a 2B for the Lakers, you know what I mean? Like the second best player some nights for the Lakers, especially we don't know how long LeBron's going to be here and whatnot. Like he could command 25 to $30 million. So it's not necessarily completely out of the realm of what he could get on the open market. It's what Kuz is trying to do right now. When Kuz signed with us, he signed a $12 million deal for I think 2 years, and then we traded him. And now he's looking for $25 million a year. So if Austin plays up, and remember the salary cap's going up. So the impact of that $30 million deal, we're looking at it 2 years away. It may look terrible, like, oh my God, like Austin getting 30 million, that's crazy. But 2 years from now, when the licensing money comes in the new CBA, when the new TV deal is on the horizon, $30 million may not really look like that bad of a number. It may look like, an average third best player salary and whatnot. So I'm with you. I don't like letting him walk for anything. I agree with you. I think there is a Caruso tax when it comes to this. I think there's a Caruso tax when it comes to this entire team. This team was effective. No reason to let these guys go for nothing if they were contributing to the playoffs.
My final point with the Lakers are very lucky this is not unrestricted free agency. Okay, that's that's very very fortunate is my point here. Like, you know what I mean? Like when you just like I've been thinking about this. Like, what if this was what if in the new CBA there CJ McCollum, I mean, they asked for nothing, I guess, for the players. I'm sure he could have asked for something, but if in the new CBA, he was like no more unrestricted free agency, and maybe the owners would have never, or governors, would have never kind of gone along with it. But they are lucky this is not unrestricted, free agency. So, and to me, in that world, I think someone would offer him. I think there was just too many flashes. He's too young. He's too polished. I think some team would have came in with a 4-year, whatever, 100 or $80 million offer. So yeah, no, you match whatever, you figure it out. And again, that's only 2 years, right? So like you have him on the cost controlled for the first 2 years, which I think is like 22 or 24 million, which is the first 2 years at 11
Yeah.
or something a year. And the last two are obviously the ones that are ballooned up to 28 or whatever it is. I think that's still movable contract. And I don't see Austin as a player that's going to just all of a sudden decline or be terrible. I think his progress from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, it just showed too much to me where I'd be more than willing to kind of invest in him as a player. So now there's no walk away number, and Lakers shouldn't have one either. I'm hoping he gets done pretty quickly. I think it got reported today he's going to wait to see what offers are out there, which makes sense. I understand that. Let's see when free agency kind of dies down and see if a team that's desperate that couldn't get any of their guys in just throws an offer sheet at him just for the hell of it.
It could definitely be the same scenario that was the DeAndre Ayton, where like whoever has cap space remaining at the end of the moratorium period just throws him a big deal just for the sake of doing it. Like obviously Indiana wanted Ayton, but I could also see a team like the Spurs, like if they don't have anybody to spend 15 million on and they have to get to like the salary cap floor, they may send him like a 60 million deal. Look, that's actually pretty good for the Lakers because that means he's only going to get like 11, and then like 17 and 17, like when you break out the numbers overall. So it's just there's good things that could come out of this as well. I would not be surprised if he waits to see whatever offer sheets he gets at the end of the moratorium period. So he may actually be the last guy that gets resolved. The announcement of things may be completely out of order. Like we may hear about Bruce first, and then Rui and D'Lo later, and we may hear about who our veteran minimum signing guys are going to be too before we hear about Austin. So just because you don't hear anything about Austin off rip, me and Raj have been saying you got to take care of these guys first, but that's not how the business works. Austin has to also look out for his own interests so he gets the maximum dollar value for the contract that he wants, overall contract that he wants. So we may have to wait. But those are the three guys that we have to do before we use this non-taxpayer MLE. Now, aside from Bruce, the other person that we debated, which warranted brought up a good basketball conversation between a basketball analysis conversation stylistically that we discussed was, would you use, if you don't get Bruce and this player is interested, would you sign Brook Lopez to the non-taxpayer MLE?
So we're talking about this offline. I would at least think about it. I feel like he is the second best non-taxpayer MLE guy available. Depends on what he wants as well. I just get scared at a 35-year-old like that worries me. Bringing another mid-30s guy, I don't think he's gonna age poorly. Again, he's definitely a 3-point shooter, definitely a rim protector. I think what we needed was more. We definitely need a center. We definitely need a backup center. Maybe that's the guy they drafted in Castleton. We'll see. But I just would hate to use our best asset, which is our non-taxpayer MLE. I would hate to use that on a center. I think there's center options available that we can get into. Brook Lopez, I think he would definitely help the team. I just worry about his age and his foot speed and all that stuff at that age, where he's a guy again that maybe some injury concerns in Milwaukee, and so we'll see what's happening there. But I would have to really think about it. But I think he's obviously the second best non-taxpayer MLE guy, so maybe that's just a guy you have to go with. I know you and others really dislike the split it with Dennis.
No, please don't do it. I'll say this. Let me be fair. The only reason I'm saying don't split it is because of the name that was mentioned that was going to be brought back. They said that they're going to you should split it with Dennis and Eric Gordon. Eric Gordon, I understand why, because he was a Rob Pelinka. Rob Pelinka was his agent before, so I understand why Rob would do that. Obviously, we don't want to get 12 million to Eric Gordon. That's insane to do something like that. But the moment they said split it with Dennis, I was like, no way, dude. We're not doing this. We're not doing this exercise again. No offense to Dennis. I hope he gets paid, whatever he feels that he deserves. From what I've heard, he's found another destination for himself. So that's giving me some relief. That's why I'm not panicking about it. But it's just dude, no way. We can't, this is one of two cap mechanisms that we're going to have available. And we can't use it on a guy that definitely doesn't warrant half of the MLE being given to that compared to the other names that are available. But yeah, go ahead.
And if you were going to do that, I would have rather just kept Beasley and Bamba and try to move those at the deadline. So to me, splitting your MLE kind of erases the whole point of having the whole MLE, right? So you can go after a different tier of player. splitting that between two, kind of, to me, you're kind of standing in the same place. So yeah, I thought, I told you this many times offline. I said, if we had the tax for MLE, that was going to Dennis, in my opinion. I
Oh
thought
my
there was
God,
no.
I was so worried. Like,
I was 100% confident in that. And Eric Gordon, to me, I mean, he made what, $20 million last year, I believe, was his deal, going from that to a $6 million deal. I wonder where he kind of ends up. We'll see if he kind of prioritizes winning. But yeah, Brook Lopez would be interesting. I think he'd be a great ad. I just would hate to use our main
yeah,
resource on a center. Again, it would move, I guess, AD back to the 4 full time. I just think, like, again, you have like LeBron, then Rui, and then Vando. I think, again, you have like a glut there where it just kind of makes the roster construction a little bit more messy. But what do you think? Would you still? I don't know. I don't know any other option that would be better than Brook Lopez that'd be available at the non-tax for Emily, or where are you at with that?
yeah. So he'd be the best. He's the best shooting big man on the market.
Sure.
He makes a ton of sense. It reminds me of like getting Marc Gasol. Honestly, like,
Mm,
foot speed is not there. The Lakers, my largest concern. Well, durability is not really as much of a concern for Brook, because Brook has played over 70 games in like the past 6 of 8 seasons. He's more
mm-hmm.
durable than both LeBron and AD. Obviously, a different player, different style of play. Um, And
Yeah.
I feel like the transition back stylistically, going from what he was doing doing with the Bucks, and coming and doing that over for the Lakers, it wouldn't be a problem at all. He seems to prefer to take the above the wing threes or the corner threes, but he does have the ability. He's had games where he's just been pulverizing teams on the interior, if they keep feeding him, and he's still very skilled in that respect. So I'm not against it. My biggest concern is the foot speed. Like, now you're moving Braun to the 3, AD to the 4. We were already getting torched badly defensively, and that was torched defensively in transition last year.
Mm,
We were one of the worst transition teams in the NBA defensively last year. Um, Denver did a phenomenal job exposing that with Jokic, obviously very unique talent, so he could do it to us. They were getting up and down the floor on us on every single miss. So it's like there's a part of that. I understand Lopez can guard Jokic, same size, same body, same length, that sort of thing. Probably not as mobile as Jokic is, just moving around on the floor. But like, I
mm-hmm.
get it. I understand if the game is slowed down. I think, and if the game was very half courtish, I love Bruce. Sorry, I love Brook for that role, because I think it balances out the floor. AD gets to play the position that he wants to. But my concern is, we'd be really slow. And if you're going to be really slow, then you have to be you have to be really good on offense. You know what I mean? Like, you got to score a lot and at the rim at a frequent rate. So, like, if Braun is not going to drive, because he's old guy, he doesn't want to put wear and tear on his body. And if AD wants to take jump shots and D'Lo wants to take jump shots, and that means that Austin is the only guy that's attacking the rim for us. I don't know if we can, win these foot speed games or transition games against other teams. Do we win 50 games? For sure. 55 games? For sure. We're winning those games. But I could also see a situation where, we get in the playoffs and teams are trying to run it down our throat, as much as possible. And we have to sit Brook, and Brook can only come off the bench because of that reason. So I don't want to run into that situation again. I think Bruce fits into more different spots that actually helps the Lakers out.
Sure. And again, I think he fills that backup center role, and this is being picky as well. Like, I think getting Brook Lopez would be just an amazing add to a team that was already good last year, right? Basically, you're swapping out Beasley and Bamba, both absolute non-factors in the playoffs. Bamba never really played for the Lakers, played 2 games, and that was pretty much his tenure. Brook Lopez would be an incredible add. You'd be adding an absolute playoff, a guy you can play in the playoffs and who'd be excellent in the regular season. So yeah, I think like that'd be kind of splitting hairs here on terms of, I think Bruce Brown's a better fit. Like, I think that's the guy I would go after for sure. But I would totally understand if the consolation prize with Brook Lopez. I mean, I wouldn't be too upset at that. Is Brook Lopez a guy you hard cap yourself for? Like, it's another, like, I guess, question there as well. It's a difficult question. Again, I just have concerns of a guy that's 35. Like, I really would like to not add another guy in his mid 30s to the team. But I would understand it. I feel like Vinay, he's a guy that can kind of get overpaid. I could see a bad team be like, hey, let's bring in a veteran leader guy who's won before. Like, those type of guys get overpaid. You see you saw this kind of with JJ Redick, got a 1-year kind of $20 million deal, I believe, from Philly or somewhere it was like that.
Yeah,
And then got another one, I believe, as well. Like, I think those type of guys, you could see them take like a 1-year balloon contract. He did the, winning in Milwaukee, and I could see him kind of just take the money right now. I
sure.
feel like that's why he's leaving Milwaukee. Is that not the that the struggle that's going on in Milwaukee? I'm not understanding why he's. I feel like that's a loss for Milwaukee, for a team that's
Yeah,
trying to win next year. I don't really understand the real reasoning why he's leaving Milwaukee. It
yeah,
must be the money.
yeah. I'm assuming it's a money thing, but at the same time, I've seen like mixed reports coming out of Milwaukee. Like they do want to bring him back, and they don't have any intention of him leaving. But I don't know. Like Nick Nurse is there now, right? So it's just like who knows, right? Nick Nurse is the coach there, or is he the
Nurse is
coach of
in Philly. He's
Philly?
in
Oh,
Philly.
sorry, Adrian Griffin.
Yeah,
Sorry, Adrian Griffin is
Adrian
the
Griffin.
coach
Yes.
with the Bucks. So it's like I don't know stylistically if it's something different that if it's something different that they try to do. Maybe they try to get a little bit more athletic at that position, and they don't want a big dude like that. Play defense differently also too as well. So who knows?
Uh,
But it's not a terrible consolation. It's just you have to be prepared for having that much size on the floor.
So we didn't talk about this earlier, but the Chicago Bulls gave Nikola Vucevic a 3-year, $60 million
That was it. Yeah,
extension.
yeah.
Um, First off, I hate the deal. We can go into that. That's not even the point here. Does that like give Brook Lopez like I feel like Brook Lopez is at least a bit more winning type of player than Nikola
Better
Vucevic. Like
defender.
at the very least,
Yeah.
Vucevic has, I guess, the post hook shots that never go in when it matters. But is that something that you think Brook Lopez can take as leverage? That's why that's part of why I think that Brook Lopez will kind of get overpaid in one of these free agent markets, Orlando, San Antonio. I could just see him be like, hey, do you want to come play here for a year, be a vet to our guys? Like I could see that conversation happening.
Fair.
But like not talking about Vucevic, but does that give Brook Lopez kind of a more leverage there to a leverage play? Like, hey, Vucevic just got $20 million a year. I think I'm worth more than the non-taxpayer MLE, right?
Yeah.
I feel
No,
like his market is more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like I know for a fact that agents go into these conversations say that guy got that much money, and I know I'm better than him, and my client is better than him, so you need to give us at least what that guy is getting for us to like have a conversation to start with. Like
Sure.
that is a very normal thing that happens. That's why like even when taking a step back, like the Rui conversation, like you look at the
Yeah.
guys that are Rui's size that have Rui's impact or just kind of have his role on teams, like those guys are getting 18 to 20 million or more dollars, depending on what team that they're on and what the cap space situation is. So when people are turning around and saying, well, Lakers should only give them $12 million, it's like, that's not what the market is saying. Like the market is saying this guy should be at least this much. Obviously he was one of our best players in the playoffs too as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I think like Brooke is probably looking at that, similar to a guy like James Harden, similar to other guys that kind of know to some degree, like this might be the last big payday I get. Like they're not
Yeah.
Kyle Kuzma situations or D'Angelo Russell situations where not everybody is like 25 or 26 and can get back into free agency when they're 29. Like a lot of these guys are like in their low 30s, mid 30s. In Brooks' case, he's 35. This might be the last big contract he ever gets.
Good point. Good
And
time to cash
so,
in.
yeah, you got to cash out. Just be like Draymond. That's the Draymond thing, right? Like everybody's like, oh, how can Draymond leave Golden State? How can Golden State let him leave? Well, Draymond may be like, look, this is the last big contract I'm probably ever going to get if it's like a 4-year deal, and that might be it for me. So you have to swing for the fences, even if it's unsavory. Like if it means that he has to leave the only franchise he's ever known. But that's how the game kind of works.
Right, exactly. And I guess with Rui, like, do you believe the 3-point shooting is real? And that's why, again, I think there's just like a lot of, right? Because I think it ballooned in the playoffs to where he was like shooting an okay percentage, and then he hit like 40% of his threes against Memphis. And I think in Denver as well, he shot well. So that's why I just think like it's tough where like a team would just throw a huge amount of money at him. But
Yeah,
you never know. That's a good point with D'Lo though. Like D'Lo can rationalize in his head, look, if I play well these next 2 years, I can jump right back in.
right.
Before I turn 30 years old and get another payday. Rui can think the same thing as well, right? I can jump back in before I turn 30. Brook Lopez is 35. Draymond Green, I don't think has ever got $100 million contract. I think
I want to say his last extension may have been like a
okay.
100 million. Cause I remember there was some beef between him and Harrison Barnes about that. Like he got more than Harrison Barnes did. There's like this drama behind the scenes drama behind it. But from what I've heard, I don't know if you've gathered any intel. Like what I've heard is
Mm-mm.
the number that he wants, the yearly salary that he wants, and the yearly salary the Warriors want to give him, it's not close, bro. Like they're not on the same page like when it comes to that. And
The Sacramento getting out kind of kill also kind of his leverage as well, because I think Sacramento was a team that he was using to bounce off of, right? Like, hey, let me go play for Mike Brown, and they can
yeah,
offer me 25 million. That's gone. They have 18
yeah,
million left in space. They're not giving that to Draymond Green. And Draymond's not leaving the Warriors for $18 million. His last contract extension, by the way, is 4-year, 99. So right at that
right
$100
at
million
$100 Yeah,
mark. But I mean, Clay made 40 last year. You know what I mean? So I'm
right.
not saying that like Draymond's right. I'm just saying what Draymond's going into it as. Like, hey, I was the best defender in the world 2 years ago, in his opinion.
Yeah.
Clay's making 40 next year. Steph is owning the actual building. Like, so like if I'm Draymond Green, that's the way I'm going into it.
Right. And look, business is business, right? Like
Yep.
it's really funny that Draymond had that little clip come out from the Paul George podcast. I don't know if you saw it, where he's like, yeah, I'm constantly
Mm-mm.
keeping. So basically in that clip, he's, Paul George, I forget what the question was that he prompted him, but that whole segment, it's like about a minute long. He basically says that, I've been keeping Clay and Steph in the loop as to what's been going on, like with my conversations, probably not in entire detail with his contract, but just what it looks like. Will he be staying in Golden State? Will he won't be staying in Golden State? And from what I've heard, like obviously if he's not staying in Golden State, obviously the Chris Paul move is a little bit of a precursor to them preparing for him possibly leaving. One of the things that may come out, is they may sign and trade him to somebody else. Like that's what a good franchise does. That's what a smart franchise does. We don't want you to not get the money you want. We can't pay you it because we're avoiding the second apron or whatever it is. So we're going to trade you to the team that makes more sense, that you want to go to. Maybe they collect some assets back. I've heard that about Draymond. I've heard that about Kuz now too, because Kuz may have, bro, I don't know who Kuz's agent is, but I'm like, dude, this guy doesn't know what his value is. He's just hoping that somebody throws a big bag at him. I don't think he's understanding how the market goes, but I mean, I may be wrong too.
Well, I
but
think
like
the
that,
Wizards changing ownership and GM kind of.
yeah,
I feel like he was on set to resign
for
with
sure.
them, and live in whatever Wizards mediocrity hell is. And then they got Michael.
Yeah.
I think Michael Winger is his name. And they they shifted course is the way to the way to put it. But no, I have another name. So obviously, I think you also said we have the biennial exception, right, which is around
4 million,
a little over 4 million.
Yeah.
So my name for that, right, let's say the James Harden trade goes through.
Yes.
And I feel like the Clippers still save money on that, right? If they trade out the salaries, I think they're thinking
Dude, if this trade, I'll just tell you this. If this trade goes out of the way, I think the Clippers are going to shave their luxury tax and they're going to get the best player in the trade, which is exactly the reason why the Lakers trade for Chris Paul back in 2000, whatever. It got vetoed for that same reason. We're about to watch it happen with the Clippers. That's all I'm going to say. If it goes down the way that I think it's going to go down, they're going to save money. Okay. Listen to me carefully, Raj. They're going to save money by this trade. And they are going to get the best player in the trade, which is, I was told as a Laker fan, that's a big no-no. Like you're not allowed to win on both ends, but we'll see what happens.
Davis Stern gonna come back and veto that one. No, and look, to me, in my opinion, like I don't think Daryl Morey is about to sell James Harden for 10 cents on the dollar. Like I hope
you know
what I mean. Like I just don't think Daryl Morey is about to go on a press conference like, hey, you gave up James Harden for Robert Covington and Nick Batum. Like I just and they've talked about 3 ways for Dame. Whatever. That's not my point. I would love to pry Plumlee away if that's an option for the buyout exception, and he might make more than that. I think he's making like 10 million right now. But I think the Clippers, because the Clippers traded for him, right? So they must have his rights. I'm sure that they can go over the cap for him. It's just that's a guy on my list for the buyout exception, which is why I wouldn't like to use it on Brook Lopez. I would like to get a backup center that way. But what are your thoughts on that? Or do you have another guy for the BAE that you've been thinking about?
Yeah, so I'm not opposed to Plumlee. I've heard that he might just stick with the Clippers. Like he might get like a raise, because I think the Clippers, even aside from whoever they trade out, they're trying to create cap space room so that they can give that cap space room. They're trying to get far enough below the apron to bring back Mason Plumlee, and also to give Russ the taxpayer MLE instead of the veteran minimum. That's what I've heard that they're trying to do with this trade. I like the idea of a mobile backup center. if we have to get a backup center on the open market, it has to be a guy like that. It has to be somebody who's mobile, a guy who's physical. Same thing that we're saying about guys like Bruce Brown. We want a guy that's physical, aggressive, who's mobile, who gets up and down the floor, has a good motor, rebounding motor, defensive motor. That's right. Doesn't have to be super skilled offensively. Like we don't need, you know what I mean? Like we don't need this do everything guy. We need hustle guys. Like we said it in the last space that we did, the last pod that we did. We need guys to survive an 82 game season and be impactful in the roles that we need them to be in the playoffs, right? We don't need them to be superstars in the playoffs. We just need them to, we do need to survive this 82 game season because that is going to be a thing. And, getting a guy like Plumlee definitely helps in that direction. Bruce Brown definitely helps in that direction. If not him, I don't know if I do it for the BAE, but like if Kevin Love was a guy that you can get backup center minutes out of him.
Yeah.
Floor spacing center, still a good rebounder. Health wise, I don't know if I would do it for him. Like it just anybody that can be impactful. Maybe it's not. Maybe the center market's even more depressed. Like maybe it's you can get quality backup centers. The Lakers have kind of done a pretty good job. Getting guys on veteran minimums or very low salaries at that position. So. But I like your thought process. I think a guy like that is a guy that's worth going after.
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, man, we used the same trade that we could have used for Plumlee. We used from Bamba. I would have loved to kind of, if we can go back in time and just go and pry Plumlee away from. I think he was on Charlotte. Again, same deal. Beverly was bought out. Reggie Jackson was bought out. Went to Denver.
They beat us to it. I had heard at the deadline that Pat was offered to Charlotte for Plumlee, but I guess they took Reggie instead. And that was the Lakers and the Clippers were both on the same, going after the same guy for the same exact reason. And so, it just worked out the way that it did.
Right. Yeah. So that's my number one, I guess, target. And I've seen some others like, Seth Curry is an option that I've seen, around that number. Seth Curry, again, I don't understand why he hops around the league. Like, I feel like when I watch Seth Curry, he's good. Maybe his injury concerns. Javon Carter was another guy that's named. So I think there's, options out there, which again, I think was why we don't want to go split the MLE for Dennis Schroeder or Eric Gordon or, other guards. I feel like there's options out there. But yeah, I think
would you give it to Eric Gordon?
I think so. I think Eric Gordon is worth that. How old is Eric Gordon? 33 now?
I want to say him and Russ are the same age.
34. I thought Eric Gordon was good in that Phoenix series. I thought he was solid. I thought he defended well. That game one that they won, I thought he was huge. He extends your range, right? He changes how you have to defend the floor. He extends the 3-point line about 2 feet out. You talk to Clipper fans like, hey, can you just shoot a normal three? Sometimes, like,
he does. He takes very deep threes for some reason.
Like, dude, you're wide open. Let's step in. But no, I think like that. I think that is useful. I think at $4 million, like he was at the 20 million number. Obviously, he's not going to get close to that. He might get some, non-taxpayer MLE money from somebody. I'm not sure, but I think he's going to kind of prioritize winning. I think about it. How about another name that I had on here, Dante DiVincenzo? He's being rumored for the non-taxpayer MLE. Is that a guy you would hand over the whole thing to?
No, I don't think I'd give Dante the full non-taxpayer MLE.
Okay.
I think if in a different situation, if the market wasn't that good and like he was like the very last option, then I would give it to him. Like if most of our roster was set and we had to use the non-taxpayer MLE, then I would use it on him. He's a good player. He basically outplayed his own teammate Jordan Poole and was more impactful in the Warriors series against us. He's I would say he's a very disciplined rebounder. Like he's a rebounding guard, which is always nice. In modern NBA, you need guards that'll rebound because just the way the 3 ball bounces around, the long ball goes. He's a nice defender. 12 million just doesn't. He doesn't have enough utility as a player, defensively and offensively, for me to warrant that. And he's not extremely good at one thing for me to be like, I got to give him $12 million. Like Brooke, I can say he's extremely good at being a big dude that can shoot the ball. You know what I mean? So that's worth $12 million. I can't do that with Dante, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the height that gets to me. I mean, he's
Yeah,
6'4". I feel like we already have so many guards. I mean, on this cap sheet, we have D'Lo, Austin already. I mean, you bring in Dante DiVincenzo. I think that's a huge resource to kind of throw on him. So again, it feels like two names, and there's gonna be a ton of teams going after these type of guys. It just I feel like the best place to win and get seen and market and availability and visibility. I think all matters here. Those are mostly the guys I had for the non-taxpayer MLA. Did you have anyone else in mind for that? I feel like those are the names that I've seen, and
yeah.
it's a really strange free agency class. Like, in no world to me should Fred VanVleet be getting $40 million a year. Like, I think fine player, 29 years old, 6 foot. Oh, I think on a good day,
Yeah.
$40 million a year for Fred VanVleet. But that's the leverage he has in terms of what the free agency market is. Is there player better than Fred VanVleet on the market? James Harden's about to get traded. I guess so. But
Okay.
I think the
I'm
whole point is like it's not a strong free agent class, I guess, which is nice that we kind of did our free agency in February to where you don't have to go sign 8 players. You go sign 1 or 2 to fill out the roster.
okay. I'll give you some names. We'll
Okay.
do this rapid fire. I'll give you some names. You don't have to
All right.
justify it. You just gotta get, or if you want to justify it with a quick thing, we can go.
Yep.
I'll throw
Yep.
you some names already.
Go.
Torian Prince. Would you give him the non-taxpayer MLE?
No.
Um,
I don't think he's worth the whole non-taxpayer MLE.
okay. Would you give him the biannual exception?
Yes, most likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So good for
How
the
about you?
BA.
Would you?
Maybe the BAE. I would
Yeah.
not have him very high on the list for the BAE. I'd have a couple other guys,
Sure.
but I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind that. Here's a good one. Josh Richardson. Would you give him the non-taxpayer MLE?
Ooh. So I wouldn't give him the non-taxpayer MLE, but I would give him the biennial exception. I think he's a solid. I think New Orleans would probably bring him back for that, but that's kind of where he's on New Orleans, right? I believe,
Yeah,
right? He's on the
he's on New
Pelicans. Yeah, yeah.
Orleans. They have his bird rights. I don't know if they're gonna keep him. But
They did trade for him though, right? I think mid-season they traded for him, if I
yeah,
remember
he
correctly.
might have been a sal. I want to say he was a salary dump because they traded away Devontae Graham. So I want
Okay.
to say they traded him because they wanted the expiring salary. I don't know if they have plans of keeping him moving forward. I know that kid Dyson Daniels. I like that kid a lot, and I think he's probably gonna get more minutes. Quite kind of like the Max Christie, like we're expecting. You and I had talked about expecting Max
Mhm.
Christie to take not a leap, but to become an impactful rotation guy. I think the Lakers are going to want to see what they can get with that pick too as well. He's going to be one of the guys that we're very paying attention to very closely in summer league. I don't know if I would do the 12 million for non-tax for Josh, but you know, if we struck out on Bruce and we struck out on Brooke and we struck out on a bunch of guys, maybe I wouldn't be against it. Or if we could split it, he would be a split candidate for me for sure. Like if I could
Okay.
give him like 8 million and then give like the other 4 million to somebody else to get a couple more slightly better than better minimum impact guys, I would try to do something like that for a guy like
Okay.
him. Next guy, Kelly Oubre.
No, I just
Would you
like
split that? Would you give him $8 million? That's the second number. So we'll do non-tax
okay,
family 12 million.
sure.
The split,
I
which
I
is he gets 8
I
million.
I I guess if you strike out on everyone else, like I'd rather go like if you're gonna do that, I'd rather go like the Seth Curry route then. Like
Okay,
I Kelly Oubre is another to me like unserious basketball player. I think he just around the winning system. Not to be mean, it's just like you watch him on the Warriors, then you watch him on Charlotte, and he put up numbers in Charlotte. I
yeah,
think he had a solid year. I don't think he's I don't think that's where he is in his career, where he's about to
fair,
come in to be a 3-and-D wing. Like, that's just not where I see Kelly Oubre in. And he throwing in Los Angeles. Yeah, no, I'm good on
fair.
Kelly Oubre.
Here's another one for you.
All right.
His market may be higher, but I wouldn't be surprised if it isn't. Christian Wood.
I've seen people throw this out there. Again, another player that I would stay away from. Like, you can't play with Luka Doncic. Something's like, something's wrong. Like something's and Dallas is trying to win, and maybe Jason Kidd just has weird decisions that he makes. Again, another guy that I would stay away. I think he would cost a non-taxpayer if I have that correctly. I feel like he
Yeah,
would, but
non-taxpayer.
yeah, no, I would stay away. What do you think about Christian Wood?
That would be a tough question for me because I could see him playing the four for the Lakers and playing sort of like a fake center for the Lakers. Like AD still gets to play his off-ball role, and Christian has to take on the like. if I squint at it, I could see the Lakers trying to make that happen. I don't think it will happen. Again, this is another guy that like if we strike out on a bunch of guys, he's only 27. If you get him on a short term deal, like if it's not like the full 4 years, if it's just like 2 years, something like that, there is a part of this where he can increase his value and the Lakers can flip him at the deadline or something like that.
He's another guy though. I just don't think that's where he's at in his career. Like I don't think he's
Fair,
trying to go to a winning team and be the fifth option. You know, like that.
fair, yeah.
You watch him on Dallas, he comes in and he like jab step backs. Like, dude, like just can you screen and roll? Like that's like the Dallas fans' complaints on him. So like again, and defensively too. I wouldn't. I'd pass on Christian Wood.
Fair, that's totally fair. Let me give you one more name, and then we'll go on to the next subject that we have here. The last guy I have is Karis LeVert. Would you give him the non-taxpayer MLE?
I don't think I would do non-taxpayer, but I would love him for the Biano exception. My issue though with him is I feel like we already have a lot of guards that do what he does,
Fair.
kind of like an on-ball scoring guard. But Karis LeVert's really good. I think I wouldn't like to use our whole huge resource on him. It'd be a struggle to me, but I would love him on the Biano exception. What do you think?
I would probably use the non-taxpayer MLE on him if he's taking that bench role. If we could use sort of an ISO scorer. He has some pick and roll ability. Not a great defender, but has a scoring punch that we could use. For the biannual exception, I lied. That was the last one. For the biannual exception, would you sign if you can't get Mason Plumlee because he's sticking with the Clippers? Would you get Dwight Powell?
Ooh, I've seen this floated to. He's kind of undersized, right? He's like 6'7", 6'8". I think Dwight.
He might be undersized. Yeah, great athlete.
Yeah,
great motor.
Great athlete. Yeah. Again, he's a guy that I don't think can play the 5 though. Like I feel like I've seen at least the Mavs games that I've watched and their kind of complaints about him. I don't think he's a pure 5. Like I don't think he's your pure backup center. But again, for the Biano exception, I think that's pretty good value. Getting a leaping kind of big who can catch lobs and kind of just high motor for the regular season. I think about it. How about you?
Yeah, I think he's a very reasonable alternative if you strike out on Mason Plumlee. I also don't think it would probably cost us the biannual exception. Like I would be very shocked if there's like a bidding war for Dwight Powell, honestly, when it comes to him. So it'd be interesting. What about Dario Saric? So the reason I'm flipping offering these names is because I've heard that the Lakers want to use the biannual exception on a center, like a big man. And so Dario is another name that showed up. What do you think about him?
So I guess like again, these names, like to me, what I'm looking for in a center, and then what I think these are really good players. Just like when I look at what the teams need, like Dario Saric, again, another undersized center, right? I feel like he's another kind of a offensively lenient center, kind of a spacing big. Yeah. Dario Saric is what, like 6'7", 6'8"?
Yeah, he's not very. He might be 6'9". He's not a true 7-footer or 6'10", 6'11" guy.
Yeah, I would love like an actual true center just to have a backup 5. If you're going to use an exception on a player, that's kind of I think the teams. You just look at the roster. I think the team's need is at that point. Maybe another like 2-way forward and then a backup center. That's kind of where I would like to fill it. Saric, again, just the talent would make sense at the buy-on exception. I wouldn't be terribly mad at it. I just think like the holes that we need, I would love to get a center. What about you?
Yeah, I'm on board with you. Like if we have to go either one or two ways, right? You have to either you're going to go with the floor spacing center who may not be as great defensively, or you're going to go with the rim defending center who's an athlete and very mobile defensively and stuff like that. And stylistically, it just has to come down to whichever way you expect the player to be. So like when we got Mo, like we expected him to be the floor spacing center, and that's kind of for when he did play. That's how we kind of used him. But he was also sort of a rim protecting center to some degree. He wasn't like right off rip. It took him some time to get used to his teammates. Obviously, now we'll never know. There is an avenue where the Lakers try to bring him back. It's not if nobody claims him on the what's it called
waiver market.
Off the waiver claim and stuff like that. So that's also possible. Same thing with Beasley. If Beasley doesn't get claimed, we still have his bird rights. Or if we don't pick up his option, we still have his bird rights.
We don't have his bird rights, do we?
Yeah, we don't have his bird rights. So we'd have to use, like a veteran minimum signing or whatever it ends up being. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So there's one name I want to float to you that is neither a biannual exception player
Mm.
because I don't think he'll command this, and he's not a non-tax player, MLE player, but he is a player who has been connected to the Lakers for a couple
Mm.
seasons now, and he was just not offered a qualifying offer from the Portland Trailblazers and is in the open market and conveniently happens to share the same exact
Oh,
agency.
this guy's a Laker for sure. I mean,
Like
there's
an
just no
agency
way.
that LeBron James and Anthony do. Cam Reddish is
Yes.
on the open market. I like to say that the Lakers always have at least one roster spot available as the clutch rehab project roster spot. And we did it with Troy Brown, and obviously we did it with Lonnie.
That's a
Lonnie was
expensive rehabilitation center, man. That's
right. Yeah, but it's just something about LA and clutch, and
sure.
there's a stimulus package that they get from. There is no better marketing team in the NBA than Lakers Twitter. None.
Oh man.
You could be an obscure player and have one moment like Matt Ryan did, and we will make sure that you have at least a couple of years to your career. Rondo was almost out of the league. Somehow he becomes a starter for the Lakers, wins the championship, and hoodwinks, I think, the Clippers or the Hawks out of like an extra $14 million. But Cam Reddish, and I'm saying this, and it's, hopefully there's no clutch folks that are going to be knocking on my front door after this pod. But no, I'm making fun of the situation. But we've gotten some value. Like we got value out of Lonnie. Obviously, none was hurt, so we never got any value out of him. But the Lakers have kind of hit with some of these clutches. Like Troy during the regular season was a very helpful
Very
player.
solid.
Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get the impact that we wanted in the playoffs. But Cam has some upside to him. He's a big kid. He's like 6'7", I want to say 6'8", like a true 6'7", 6'8". Can handle the ball, can shoot the ball, a little streaky, still kind of raw as a player. But again, in a situation where he just comes off the bench, given a very specific role in Darvin Ham's offense, where you shoot threes, get to the rim, very simplified offense, not complicated. He could flourish. What do you think about the Lakers adding Cam? And I'm with you. Everything that I've heard is as long as Cam doesn't get more than a minimum deal from somebody else, Cam is
Which he's
probably
not.
going to be a Laker. What do you think about adding Cam Reddish? Do you think that he's in our rotation if we sign him?
Ooh. So before we go there, I love the term stimulus package because you know what else comes with that? It's very extensive. What comes with it is in training camp, it's who's dominating scrimmages? Cam Reddish.
Cam
He's
Reddish.
absolutely dominating. You remember we hearing that from like Kendrick Nunn and like you hear
Oh
it from
my
all the guys.
God, dude!
So
Right before the season started, Kendrick Nunn might be the opening day shooting guard. I was like,
yeah,
what?
like he's killing in scrimmages, and then we saw 2 preseason games. We're like, yeah, that guy might not play for a little while. But no, like for Cam Reddish, I think I think I'm lower on him than most. I think you were kind of higher on him at least last summer. I think that was the guy that you were kind of advocating for, if I have that right. For Lakers to go and get Cam Reddish. Look, I throw flags when 3 teams, and look, I don't know what Portland's doing.
Very fair.
I mean, that Portland traded Josh Hart for Cam Reddish, which basically turned into Chris Murray. Which again, I just don't know what Portland is doing. I didn't understand the trade at the time. Cam Reddish wasn't even in the Knicks rotation. You traded a starting wing, Josh Hart. Not to belabor the point on Portland, but yeah, I think Cam Reddish is gonna be on the minimum. Look, is he better than Max Christie? I don't know. Like we're both going into the assumption. I think Jovan said today as well that Lakers are going in the assumption with Max Christie having a rotation spot. I don't think Cam Reddish is given a rotation spot. Here's my thing, Renee. Like I understand the reclamation project, the rehabilitation of clutch clients. I get that. And though, like, who does Cam Reddish see himself as? Like, is that a guy like? Does he see himself now as like a minimum? I don't think that's what Cam Reddish sees himself as. But I mean, on the minimum, you can't. If you want to give him a vet min contract, I'm fine. I don't think he's pulling that anywhere else. I don't think some team with cap space is throwing, or anyone's giving him exception. I mean, this is what his 3rd team now. That's kind of been like, yeah, we're good on the Cam Reddish. We're good in the Cam Reddish business. There's some tools there. I guess I don't know what teams aren't seeing when I see him play. I'm like, it feels like an NBA player. Like when I watch him, the numbers don't really bear out. I don't think he's liked by the analytics, but he has some good size. But I think he's going to be a Laker. It just makes sense. He fits all those boxes of, like Lonnie Walker kind of as well, right? Just super talented, didn't work out in his former spot. Lonnie made a name for himself. We'll see where he goes or if he stays. But feels like Cam Reddish is a Laker. What do you think?
Yeah, I think he is locked in for that clutch rehab role, dude. Like that, like it almost seems like the Lakers always keep like one or two spots. And I don't want to say it's like a bad thing. It's good business for the Lakers to do that. If you can't trade for like a clutch superstar level player like Zach LaVine or Trey Young, like or DeJounte Murray, not superstar, those are star level guys. But if you're not trading for one of those guys, then go get the role guys because that matters to come, like that matters to agencies like Clutch. Like Isaiah Hartenstein was, nobody knew what kind of offer he was going to get from the Clippers, and the Clippers couldn't offer him a certain amount of money because of the bird rights and stuff like that. But he gets a great offer from the Knicks because the Knicks are run by CAA. So it's like taking care of role players also matters. And if the Lakers can't offer a ton of money for the player, we can at least offer the opportunity and the visibility. Right?
Sure.
Like Austin's agent brought Colin Castleton. We talked about it in our last space. Like Colin Castleton turned down opportunities to get picked second round because he wanted to come to the Lakers. So there is an element of like Lakers are going to get 48 games or 41 games, whatever, however many games they get on national television. If any of those games are blowouts or if you're towards the second 5 or the second 7 outside of the starting lineup, if you're part of that rotation, you're going to get on national television. Really only takes 1 or 2 nice plays a game, and we're going to get you to go viral. Like Caruso was yamming it, like he'd yam it on like one guy, and he would be viral for like weeks, and people were so upset about it. Austin Reeves crosses up he crosses up, who is it? Giannis in a home game, like in the middle of February or something like that. And he's gone viral for like weeks. So it's like, the visibility opportunities there. And you never know, that kind of stuff. I know an agent has told you directly that, yeah, like coming to Lakers offers a level of visibility that, some other franchises just can't afford, for guys that come out there. And that is a thing that the Lakers, it's not even a Lakers thing. It's the Laker fans. We are insane. We you can do anything small that helps us win a game. And you're on Mount Olympus for the Lakers, at least for, a solid week or so. So I would not be surprised if Cam is a Laker. We can find something for him.
100%. And I think that can be used in different ways. Like, yeah, was Caruso only good because he was a Laker? Caruso also was really freaking good, right? And Austin Reeves was really freaking good. I think this works both ways. I think if you're not good, it's an extra level of negativity, right? It's like extra layer of, you know what I mean? Like D'Lo's Western Conference Finals was terrible. It's also he's playing on the Lakers, and it gets there's magnified. More eyeballs on it. It gets magnified, right? You see this with a lot of players as well. Like when they come here, and if they're Kendrick Nunn, like where's he going next season? I'm not sure. Like dude was terrible here. I don't see his name anywhere. Is Kendrick Nunn in the league next year? I don't know. Like I have no idea. He played on the Wizards. We'll see. Not sure anyone was watching those games, but like we'll see where he goes. But I just think like it also works the other way as well. And I think there's players that really you have a chance to really redeem yourself here in a way that that like you said, those opportunities aren't really in other places where you can earn a contract and all that stuff. And Malik Monk did that, right? Malik Monk was playing in Charlotte. I'm sure he was playing fine, was putting up some numbers. He comes to the Lakers, shows himself as a playmaker, as a guy who can shoot off the ball threes. And there were people from Charlotte like, yeah, Malik Monk was doing this in Charlotte. Yeah. And you know what I mean? Like people were really high on him, and now he went and got paid by Sacramento. Lonnie Walker, I think, showed some things in the playoffs. We'll see if that kind of bears fruit to a contract. But I think it works both ways as well. I think players can come here and redeem themselves, and there's also a way where like your struggles get magnified. So I think but whole point, Cam Reddish will definitely be taking one of these vet minimums. He'll at least get a camp invite, maybe a non-guaranteed deal.
For sure.
I could see that. I don't think he's ahead of Max Christie in the rotation. I don't think he's ahead of then all the other players that'll be in our rotation. So we'll
I feel like if he comes to the Lakers, you're probably seeing him come off the bench before Fino, before Maxwell Lewis. Like they'll probably try and spring some minutes for him and hope that he hits early on. And if he doesn't, then obviously that experiment will be over much sooner than we think. But like it's just there's upside there, like, and I think the Lakers probably also have a little bit of their own hubris where they think, oh, we did make Lonnie work, and we did make some of these other guys work. Like Troy worked for as long as we used him. So there's no reason for them to believe that they can't in a smaller role where you're not expected to do a lot, that we can't get something out of a talented kid. And he is talented. His issues are, I've heard many different things about what his issues are, but it's not as many people saying he's just a straight up bad player. It's more like he's not consistently good. So then the bad kicks in at the wrong times and stuff like that when it comes to what he does. So
Right.
yeah,
and his expectations, right, coming in, I'm sure, were a lot higher than whatever he is now, whatever is on Atlanta and New York. To your point, just the way that we're absolutely fiends. I haven't seen anyone else post this, but like, so the reporters were posting like the post game shooting with Cole Swider, Maxwell Lewis, and Max Christie, and like I see legit like analyzing their jump shot, and like this, in their practice corner threes. I'm like, man, I love it. But I haven't seen any other. Maybe I'm just not following enough team accounts. But to your point, like how Laker fans are fiends about this. I think it's great, and I think there's two sides of it. But it was cool again to get the footage of the three rookies. Or not, Cole Swider's not a rookie, and Christie's not a rookie, but Maxwell Lewis and Huchefino as well had like a solo shooting drill that he was going, and so it's nice to get that footage. To your point again, like breaking down their jump shot in the in the practice was so great, so great to watch.
Yeah, it's there is no fan base like ours, bro. We are, I mean, obviously the fan base has a lot of different factions within it too as well. The old guard, the new guard, the clutch folks, the Braun folks, the AD folks, and the players that come and go, the D-Lo folks. Everybody has a stand in some form somewhere, especially on Twitter. But that's kind of what makes Lakers Twitter so cool. It's what makes Lakers social media so cool, that we have this level of intense investment in these even brand new players to the team. Like Fino put something out about like he wasn't trying to disrespect Braun about him
like
being
on
old.
day one.
Yeah, and people like I already saw like a civil war going on, like, oh, the Braun folk. Like, I was like, all right, bro, like it's all right, like it's probably not his fault. It's not Fino's fault. It's not the Braun folk. It's probably somebody in the media that kind of posed the question in a way that made him have to answer it, where it seemed like he was, a little offensive. Like, I get it. It's fine. It is what it is. But that's just kind of, I'm Indian, you're Indian. We all have crazy family members that interpret things in weird ways. And that's what family is, man.
My only like pet peeve, and we can I guess close soon, but like my only rant is like, Cole Swider was also shooting with them, and he's also on a two-way, right? He's one of our two-ways, two ways. I was like, I still believe in Cole Swider, and someone says, he has to be a good defender. I was like, bro, if Cole Swider was a 6'9" guy who could shoot and defend, he's not on your team. Like that, like you know what I mean? Like that. Like,
he'd be a stronger market.
If you can get an NBA skill out of Cole Swider, like it's a win. Like this idea you're gonna get a 6'9" two-way guy. So I thought that's my only little pet peeve. But no, I'm excited, man. I think there's a lot of fun stuff. We'll have free agency tomorrow at 3:00, I believe, Pacific. It'll get started. So we'll know. I think we'll get at least the non-taxpayer MLE guys. I feel like should be signed pretty quickly. D'Lo, Rui, Austin, I'm sure are going to want to wait out at least as much of the market as they can. I'm guessing.
And I mean, for the folks that don't know, like I think new CBA has made it so that if you announce something early, you're going to get fined for it. So I don't know if we'll get people like, I don't know if we're going to get Woj breaking at like 2:30 that some deal is about to be signed in 30 minutes. Like, because I think the agents and the teams that come to those agreements may get fined for that. And that's a new CBA thing. So the floodgates may not open until the actual 3:00 Pacific Standard Time or whatever time free agency opens. But yeah, I'll be curious to see if it's like a flurry of stuff. I could see the situation where a lot of players just want to get their stuff done before going into the holiday weekend, like the 4-day weekend or whatever. So we could see stuff like that. But we have seen like big moves happen on like July 4th. The KD trade or the KD OKC to Golden State thing, I think famously happened on the 3rd or the 4th, or it's somewhere close to July 4th, when it happened and whatnot. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what trades
Yep.
happen. You and I have speculated quite a bit around the league and whatnot. Tomorrow, I think, is the dateline before, like at least before the free agency period starts, before the time officially switches over to the new season. So you may see some trades, happen just before the CBA rules completely change. So it'll be interesting to see. But folks, we are at an hour and 45 minutes, and this was a very, very big primer. We covered a ton of stuff. So whether you've been here from the very beginning or whether you've joined in, midway through or whatever, we'll make sure that we get the recording up on the pod streams on Spotify and Apple. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube, you can always use YouTube as well. The cap sheet, I've had it up on display on the YouTube there. So once the video is up, you guys can run it back if you want to copy paste for your own notes. Go back what names we referenced that we've been hearing about on the back end that are available. There are actually many more names that both Raj and I did not mention because it's just we'll wait and see what happens with them when it happens. But they're it's a cool time for Laker fans. It's not as panicky, but there are improvements on the margins. There is a chase. There is a carrot at the end of the stick that we can definitely be, that we can definitely go. So we both, on behalf of myself and on behalf of Raj, we really want to thank everybody who has been rocking with Lakers Detailed since we've been launching it towards the end of the season into the playoffs, all the way into our just kind of first foray into free agency. We appreciate the support on the streams. We appreciate the support on the YouTubes. We appreciate the support on the spaces. Whatever you can do to support, like, share, subscribe, whatever. Leave a review, whatever it is. We appreciate you. And if nothing else, we'll see you in the next one. And we hope you have a wonderful day or evening whenever you end up listening to this. So y'all have a good one.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Peace.